Welcome back to the Northern Steel podcast. I'm your sultry smooth host, Dominic Paskowski, and with me is the buttery smooth vocals of Christopher Paskowski.
Hey, what's up, ladies and gents? It's your boy, Chris. We're about to take you on a ride. You hear that?
That's the sound of me stalling because the topics in the NFL were super dry. Ain't nothing happening.
But that's okay. Because
we here.
Always have stuff to talk about.
Shall we, Chris? Shall we review the news of the NFL this week?
I think we might as well. Now's a better time than ever, baby.
First up on the docket that happened this week, just a little bit of hilarious news. The Rams signed Bobby Wagner, which means the Ravens didn't get him.
Good, honestly, good.
I needed that. I need a good little laugh like that, you know what I mean?
No, it's always good to watch the demise of other franchises within our division. It's very comforting.
It's always good to see that crab cakes are not a good sell for a team. Because who likes crab cakes? Nobody.
Who? Oh.
Right. Yeah, the Rams, Bobby Wagner, he chose the Rams over the Ravens. He says it was because he gets to play the Seahawks twice a year. Fair enough. I think he's mad about that whole thing went down. You know what's funny about that is I think the Seahawks must have something in the organization. Maybe they don't handle business correctly. Maybe they're not as fluid in conversations with players. Because Earl Thomas was pissed when he left the Seahawks. I don't think Cam Chancellor retired on a good note. Richard Sherman wasn't happy when he left the Seahawks. You got Russell Wilson on a different team. They're talking about rumors that they could trade DK Metcalf. I don't know. I'm not really sure what's going on with Seattle, to be honest.
I always feel like Seattle's one of those teams to where they are very highly regarded whenever there are people on that team. But yeah, I've noticed that too. A lot of times when people do leave that organization, you don't really hear a lot of good things about it. So really curious. And I don't know if you're trying to transition or anything, but like you brought up with DK Metcalf, that's kind of been big, or kind of the big rumor lately.
Yep. Yeah, I don't foresee them going through with it. I don't foresee them trading away DK Metcalf because he is their biggest star. However, hot take for you, I don't personally believe DK Metcalf is as good as the hype around him, personally.
No, Dom, stop.
Oh,
that's blasphemous.
Oh no, it's too outlandish.
What are you talking about?
It's too crazy. I
named my first kid D and my next kid K.
After the famous gorilla from Nintendo. I just really don't think he's as good as what people think he is. I mean, people make wild accusations and comparisons to Calvin Johnson, which, if you are making comparisons to Calvin Johnson, you are a child who never watched Calvin Johnson play. Oh. And he's just not, you know what? But I'm getting this in the background. There we go. He's just not like that talented to be considered that. I hated the same thing when they did that with Claypool too. I hated when they called him Mapletron compared to Calvin Johnson. As we all know, Claypool's no Calvin Johnson. I wish he was.
No, I was going to say, I kind of hate how much they're loosely throwing the title of Megatron around, because, like, yeah, you can have the dimensions of a 6'5" receiver with 2% body fat, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a Hall of Famer by any means. So
I think he's solid. I don't think he's that good, but I think he's solid.
No, I don't think DK Metcalf is a bad wide receiver at all. I just think he gets way too much hype for mostly his size and
Correct.
Intimidation, to be honest. I saw a post today talking about like, how would you rank these wide receivers? And it had Deebo Samuels, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, and Terry McLaurin.
Suspiciously left off Deontay, but sure.
Well, of course, because they always leave out Deontay. But I was like, looking at this list, and I personally don't really know too much about McLaurin, but at the same time, am I saying that right? McLaurin?
Yeah, you're saying that right.
I don't really know too much about him, or I haven't watched a whole lot on his tape, but at the same time, I felt like I was going to put DK at number 3 in that slot.
You know where I'm putting him?
Personally, number 4?
I'm putting him at number 4. Fight me, everybody. I don't care. Fight me. Terry McLaurin is really, really good. AJ Brown's a better receiver all around. And Deebo Samuel.
I mean, I feel like Deebo Samuel definitely had this year wrapped up in a bag, so he probably claimed that one spot out of those 4 guys for sure.
DK's going 4 on that list. You can argue with a wall. I don't care. That's where I'm putting him. He's not better than all 3 of those receivers.
No, and what really bummed me out too is because obviously I see some really rash takes on Twitter and being like, "Hey, would you guys be okay with us trading Deontay Johnson for DK Metcalf?" And I go, first off, absolutely not. I think Deontay Johnson is way more versatile than DK, but also our trade. Okay, we need wide receivers. I mean, we're I don't want to trade away draft capital. I don't want, because there's like, I think it was Deontay and extra draft picks for DK. No. And I'm like, we need that capital. We need to draft other guys. I feel like we could get other guys in the draft that are as talented as DK Metcalf at the wide receiver position.
We can't
depending on when we draft.
We can't trade Deontay and capital because Deontay and DK are probably on the same plane of just being solid enough. I think a lot of Steeler fans hate Deontay because we've seen him drop balls here and there, but Steeler fans, you guys don't watch every Seahawks game. I'm not saying I do either, but you can't just assume that DK Metcalf is super good because the media tells you he is. Watch some tape. He's not as good as what you think he is. Moving on, other things happen in the news. This is the kind of stuff I have written down, Chris, because literally nothing's going on. We expected this. We're waiting for the draft. Everyone's waiting for the draft. I've written down that Dolphins traded away Devontae Parker for a 3rd round pick to the Patriots. And then after it, I put, who cares? Do you? No. After that, we lost Taco Charlton. Rest in peace. I just put that down because I thought he played pretty well in the backup. And I think and the only other reason I put this down, because you might be saying, who cares, right? Because he didn't really play a lot. Yes, we signed some Jannard Avery last week as depth, but I still think we need depth. And I am wondering now, maybe that's a position we draft. I know the Steelers get horny to draft edge rushers, so we'll see if they draft one here or not. And then after Taco leaving, the very last one, which actually is kind of big because I think it affects us the most. A lot of fans, when this happened this week, were kind of very confused by this news, but I think it affects us a lot. And here's what it is. It is the Eagles and the Saints made a NFL draft trade. Now, let me pull up the specifics on that because I don't remember exactly what they were. I got to scroll through me and Chris's many, many tweets that we sent back and forth through each other.
Well, you find that roughly the big ones are just trading away I believe it was the 19th pick for the 16th and the 18th or something like that.
Yeah, the Eagles traded away picks 16 and 19 and 194 to the Saints in exchange for picks 18, 101, 237, a 2023 first, and a 2024 second. So basically the order, if you can't keep up here, is Eagles will pick 15, Saints pick 16, Chargers 17, Eagles 18, Saints 19. And then us.
So let's take a second to just kind of break this down, right? Because when I saw this post about the news about the Saints making that trade, I felt like any thoughts of if there were hope of getting a quarterback for the Steelers kind of went out the window, because I know the Saints have been linked big time to Kenny Pickett, and I know he's a potential option, and I honestly feel like Pickett might be a guy that falls the most of the people I care about. And I had to say that because I'm not a big Corral or Howell person. But at the same time, I think another good point that was brought up was the fact that, maybe they should use these 2 picks to kind of just build the team right now. I feel like the Saints have definitely lost a lot in the last couple of years. And they're under a new head coach and everything. Do they want to bring in a rookie quarterback this season with one of those picks, or do they want to get 2 highly rated guys on defense or something to just kind of build around and have a better foundation for a guy like maybe Bryce Young next year or CJ Stroud? So I thought it was kind of interesting.
The thing with the Saints and the NFL draft, like we've talked about before in the past, is that it is going to be crazy, I think, this year. I think it's really hard to predict. And you make a good point because this quarterback class isn't really that strong. I know it's kind of hypocritical to say that because the Steelers are also looking for a quarterback. But making a good point is because they have multiple draft picks, maybe they can use that to build for the future. However, when I was really thinking about it, I don't think they really lost as much as I really thought they did. They still have Alvin Kamara. Their line's still decent. It's not like the worst line in the world. They still got Michael Thomas. They don't really have another receiver per se. At least not one that jumps off the page to you.
Yeah.
They still have their defenders that they like, like Cam Jordan and the cornerback that's really good. I don't remember his name right now.
Lattimore?
Yes, Marshawn Lattimore. So, I mean, they still got pieces here so they can to make work, and I know they do like Kenny Pickett. I think, to kind of argue your point a little bit when you said this makes it maybe impossible to get a quarterback now, I don't think so. I think it just means they have to spend more. They have to trade away more to get a quarterback, which I don't like, and I know you don't like either.
No, and I'm glad that you brought that up too, because I feel like before going into the draft talk, I was like, man, I kind of wish maybe we would have lost a couple more games or, gotten better draft capital, and I feel like you say those kinds of things every single year because you just want the best players in that draft. But the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of on board with sticking at that number 20 because, there's that chance that maybe a guy like Pickett could drop all the way there. I've seen reports of Malik Willis potentially going there. But at the same time, to me, if those guys are off the board and we do not get a quarterback, I'm not necessarily heartbroken about it. I think there's a lot of other phenomenal talent of team needs that we should pursue. Especially at that number 20. So I feel like the Steelers are definitely in a good position, with that signing of Trubisky, where we got that bridge kind of thing going like we talked about previously. I don't know. I like that number 20 pick more and more that I think about it.
I mean, even, if you missed last week's podcast, which you shouldn't, because this podcast is really good, ask my mom.
We're popping off.
It's we talked about receivers last week, and there's a chance because that is a pretty big need for us that, if things are gone, I don't know if I personally don't think it's going to happen, but they could pick up a receiver in the first round. So to get a quarterback like Malik or Kenny, they'd have to trade him probably into the top 10, which is not something I'd really want to do, to give up a lot of draft capital to get someone like that. Now, don't get me wrong, I really do like Kenny. I understand that, and I think Malik can have a high ceiling and can have a lot of potential. But to me, both those players are kind of risks, right? Because Kenny doesn't have the strongest arm in the league, he doesn't have the biggest hands in the league, and Malik can be inaccurate with a lot of short passes, and that's kind of like his tail of his tape a lot. which comes with quarterbacks who like to maybe be a little more mobile. Also, you got to talk about injuries when you talk about quarterbacks that are mobile, like Malik is. Except for Lamar Jackson, who doesn't get hurt, but Lamar Jackson doesn't get touched. So, and you can't. I don't think he's gonna be playing like Lamar Jackson. So,
no,
there's. I understand the panic in Steeler fans when it's like, we need a quarterback and we need it now and we need to start winning. You don't find a Ben Roethlisberger, you don't find a Terry Bradshaw, you don't find your franchise guy immediately. You really don't.
No.
And I don't think this is the draft for it. Again, if we draft him, me and Chris are going to be happy because we're going to root for him. They're on our team now. But like Chris said, there's a lot of talent out there. And there's a lot of different ways the Steelers could go in the first round. So yeah, I think that's why that trade affects us the most.
Yeah, and I don't know why I was just kind of thinking about this, but you know how lately, whenever people talk about Malik Willis as a potential draft pick, they always talk about how high of a ceiling he has and how he probably has the highest ceiling in the whole draft class. But the biggest thing is he's just so raw that he probably would not start in his first year, maybe not first couple of years. The more I think about Malik Willis as a potential draft pick to go to the Steelers, it kind of worries me a little bit because if we have Mitch Trubisky at helm, or if it's Mason Rudolph, taking the snaps, I'd much rather have Malik Willis sit behind a guy of a veteran. Like if Malik Willis was in there and we still had Ben and he could learn under Ben, like Ben's not wasn't the same player that he used to be by any means, but the knowledge and being a veteran and just, a future Hall of Famer, I feel like Ben could have given out a lot more knowledge to the game than a guy like Mitch or Rudolph. And so, when you're learning under a guy, I would almost feel more confident if we drafted him, but we still had Ben, so he could learn under him rather than being like, all right, you're going to learn under Mitch Trubisky or you're going to learn under Mason Rudolph. Cause it's like, wow, what great, lessons learned to watch those guys, So
and
I don't know.
And that's what people talk about. People talk about that's the mistakes that Kevin Colbert has made by not finding a quarterback until it's too late. Because instead of drafting Terrell Edmonds, they could have drafted Lamar Jackson. I don't know if that would have worked out, but they could have.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been other quarterbacks they probably could have gotten, but that being said, that's really interesting, and that segues right into the main topic of the night. Is again, this is part 2 of us picking out positions of need for the Steelers and kind of picking a top 3 to talk about. I'm going to pick some that are in the earlier rounds, like rounds 1 through 3, maybe dip into 4. And Chris is going to pick some that are kind of like 3 through, 6 might be as late as it goes. Who knows? So this week, we're talking about safeties. Woo 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 woo. Now, safeties are, you might be thinking, well, I don't know if that's really a position of need. Yeah, it might not be. What's happening right now is, again, this is the 4th episode in a row where we're still talking about Tyrann Mathieu. He's going to take his time. Whatever, man. Like, the hope is still there, but the hope is also dying out. You know what I mean? I'm not going to spend every day on my phone looking to make sure it happens. When I get the tweet, I get the tweet. So hoping for Tyrann Mathieu still. Edmonds is still out there, and nobody wants him. So we could sign him back for cheap, and then easy peasy, we're done, right? However, because still with the Edmonds thing in mind, I feel like we could still draft a safety because we're not really sold on Edmonds. There's a reason why he has not been re-signed yet, and I think it's because we're also still looking for maybe another option, and he thinks he's better than what he is. Maybe he would use this year to try to bulk up his stats and go somewhere else next year. But we would have a safety waiting in the wings, possibly. So that's the position we picked. And I guess I'll start it up, huh? What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, go for it. I mean, like Dom said before, he'll take on the earlier part of the draft, kind of the top prospects of that safety class. And yeah, I'll hit you at the end here.
Well, first up, it's a doozy, folks. It's a big one. And the only reason why I'm talking about this man is because I'm hearing little whispers, I'm hearing little rumors that
What
this...
kind of whispers?
Oh, there's sultry whispers.
Tell me
Super
about
sultry. That Kyle Hamilton is dropping in the draft. Fast.
Whoa. Kyle? Kyle?
Kyle Hamilton?
No.
The GOAT? Yeah. They say he's dropping, Chris. I can't believe it. And it got me thinking, man, Tyrann Mathieu with Minkah Fitzpatrick? Well, that'd be a dream.
Mhm.
Kyle Hamilton with Minkah Fitzpatrick on a rookie contract? That might be the dream, to be honest.
It really might be better too with the big contract that Minka's expected to sign here too. So.
Correct. So let's talk about Kyle, huh? If you don't know who he is the top safety prospect coming out of college. He's from Notre Dame. He is 6'4", good God almighty, 220 pounds, 33 arm wingspan. This man can fly. 40-yard dash, 4.59. Respectable. Probably why he's dropping. That's okay. Because I would like him to drop to us. This dude. Now, if you've ever watched Kyle Hamilton highlight tape, or maybe you haven't because you thought there's no possible way we could ever get him, you should. The thing with Kyle Hamilton, it's kind of one of those situations because he is the top safety. It's like, what can you say about him that hasn't already been said? What can you say about him that you can't use with your own eyes to look at a highlight, right? I know you might be saying, that's unfair. You're a podcast. Give me the information. I don't want to Google. I'm lazy. Okay, well, I'll do the best I can. His highlight tape is, I feel the best way to describe it is cool as a cucumber. This man, he can do everything, but it just looks effortless. It's like, he's like slow in a fast way. You know what I mean? Everything, he just reads everything. He knows what things are going on, and everything's just kind of fluid, and it flows. He understands the defensive schemes. He moves. But he can pop you. He can hit you hard. He's got great ball awareness. And I mean, the man's 6'4". What are you going to do? He's 6'4". He's just kind of, he can play in the box. He can play outside. He can play deep. And just imagining some guy that can cover the pass, especially being 6'4", kind of like how Minkah can cover the pass. I feel like that opens the door for Minkah to excel even more, because Minkah is kind of a situation right now where teams are throwing away from him because of how good he is. But Kyle Hamilton, being as tall as he is, as big as he is, you play against teams with big tight ends. That's who Kyle's covering, and I'm going to feel a lot better about Kyle Hamilton covering Travis Kelce, covering some of the Mark Andrews, covering Njoku, than I would feel about Edmonds. No offense to him, but those guys are elite, and I think Kyle can match that. His last year in college, he went down in tackles compared. So I think that Notre Dame's defense kind of all around got better. He had 34 tackles, 19 solo. He doesn't rush the quarterback in college. I think he plays a lot of he plays the run, but he plays a lot of pass too. He did have 3 picks. He had 8 total in his college career, and 4 pass defended. So the stats don't really jump out at you as anything crazy, but trust me when I say he was the leader on his defense, and I think you're looking at. You get a man like this, I think you're looking at elite level statuses in the Steelers defense in the middle, where you have Minkah and Hamilton potentially. You have Jack and Bush, and I think Bush is going to come on. And then you got Hayward and Tuitt and Alu all in the middle. That's a great middle of the field.
Which is a huge area that we lacked in all of last season.
Right. So not much more to say. I mean, I think when me and Chris watch the draft, we're going to be making a big board of all the players that are possible, because we just don't know what's going to happen. And we'll cross them off as they come, but keep an eye out. I think that might be really, really sweet if they can pick him up.
Right.
All right. The next guy I'm going to talk about is Daxton Hill.
Oh.
Daxton Hill is rumored to be probably a second round pick. Second, maybe third, but I don't think he'll make it that far, especially after watching his tape. He is from Michigan. He is 6 feet tall, and his 40-yard dash time, which makes sense after I watched his tape. I did not know this prior. I'm just looking at it now. It is a 4.38.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. This man is like a human missile. You watch his highlights. This dude plays the run extremely well. He is constantly getting in there. He's fast, and he pops people hard. Him and the next safety I talk about are very similar in that sense, actually. He just crushes people. I mean, I was having his highlights running earlier, and he's quick to adjust on a play. On a slant, on a flat, he's moving around, he's making those plays, and he can cover the man coverage pretty well too, within the slot because of his speed mostly. His speed makes up for it. Now, he's not catching every pick, he might leave some opportunities out there for other people. That's kind of what Edmonds did, kind of do a tip drill type situation. So the pass isn't necessarily, I would say, like his strongest point, but it's definitely not a weak point either. His strong point is really just lighting people up. You want a guy on the Steelers defense that maybe causes some fear into some people, maybe like a Ryan Clark used to. That's this guy right here. Daxton Hill just crushes people. He runs a 4.38 speed right into your gullet.
My gosh, that's like a bullet.
It really is, man. This guy is fast and he's quick. His last year... Oh, go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say, exactly what Dom's saying with being a good tackler and just kind of laying the boom. I feel like when you look at defensive backs, everyone looks for the pass deflections and the interceptions, but I feel like if the Steelers, they want a tackler. They want someone who can wrap you up and take you down or just lay the hit. So
yes,
I like this. I like this.
Yeah, I would say this safety and the next one I'm about to talk about, either of those guys. Of course, Kyle Hamilton, great. Either of these guys, I think personally, I would be excited about. And I don't say that a lot when I watch tape. Chris showed me some tape, and I get kind of like bored sometimes. But these guys, they're both very, very explosive, and I feel like either one of these guys I would love, and that's why I think none of these guys will get, because that's just what happens. But I do love him. In his last year in college, he had 69 tackles, 42 solo, half a sack. He can rush the quarterback, and he's quick at it too. He had 2 picks, a fumble return, and 8 pass defended, which is nuts. Now, it doesn't talk about tackles for loss here, but let me tell you that on any sweep play, on any half-pack toss, on any wide receiver screen, he was there like that. And it was very, very impressive.
That's very nice.
The last safety I got for you folks out there is a player who's actually been linked to the Steelers frequently. It sounds like a player that they like, and it makes sense because he's not too far away. He grew up in Pittsburgh himself as Jaquan Brisker out of Penn State. Jaquan Brisker is kind of slated to be a second-round pick. Third round probably is more realistic, I would say. His 40-yard dash time is a 4.49, respectable, not bad, and he's 6'1". He's a pretty big guy.
Mm-hmm.
Jaquan Brisker, in his last year playing at Penn State, he had 63 tackles, 38 solo tackles, 1 fumble return, 2 picks, and 5 pass defended. Now, with Jaquan Brisker's highlights, he's kind of the same boat as Daxton Hill. I feel like when you hear that the Steelers like a player, you can kind of get a sense of why that is, right? They have a certain type, right? Kind of like everyone's got a type with who they're romantically involved with. That's how the Steelers are with certain players. And this guy fits the bill because of his run defense. And I think that's the biggest part of it, right? He is not afraid to get right up in there in the box, right up in that line, get messy, put his body in the line, and stop a run, or at least cause some commotion, some chaos to make that run stop shortage. And we were absolute garbage at run defense last year. which is not very Steeler-like.
No.
And I think that was my biggest takeaway and why I'd be also excited to get this kid, because you get Tuitt back, you get Alu back, like we've talked about before in the past. Miles Jack and Devin Bush hopefully are playing a little better, and then this guy is just always in the box. I mean, he kind of plays like a hybrid linebacker, to be honest. I really like it, and you might say that's a little one-dimensional because a lot of his highlights are run related. He doesn't really play the pass that much, but I think it's because of how bad we were at the run is why I like it so much. He also, like Daxton Hill, can lay the boom on people. He takes people out a lot. He kind of plays middle of the field zone coverage like a hybrid linebacker could, and he's very, very solid, man. I'd really encourage you to like look at his tape as well too, because he as well with Daxton Hill, he recognizes screens and flats, and he just rushes and gets there quick. All sweeps outside, he's there. His play recognition is very, very high.
That's good to hear. I mean, yeah, like you said, and like I said before, Steelers definitely have a type. People that they love looking at, and people who aren't afraid to bring the boom and bring the hit. And I feel like you brought a lot of good options from your side of the table. And it'll be interesting, right? Like, I think we addressed a lot of offensive pieces, so I wouldn't be surprised if we went a lot of defense just to like really fix that wretched, horrible run game or defensive run game that we had last season.
And I think that they might go more defense than we think, just because that's what they might lean on heavily. It sounds like Tomlin said this to Miles Jack, where he said we need defense to win a championship, and they might just try to roll with an old school plan of just, we're not going to give up more than 13 points a game. We're hoping we can score 14.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Jacksonville almost did it when they had Blake Bortles on their team. Like, that defense was a beast. 2008, it's not like Ben was the best quarterback in the world, but he's definitely better than Blake Bortles. But that defense was amazing.
Yeah,
so
and I know the NFL has changed, but Trent Dilfer has a ring from playing with a good defense.
Who?
Exactly.
But yeah, I know who Trent Dilfer is. But
I guess to end the thing, I mean, he's definitely not bad in pass coverage, but yeah, he is super, super solid tackler, and he recognizes the gameplay. It totally makes sense why the Steelers are in love with a player like Jaquan Brisker, because he just can attack the run so well.
And I do think regardless of if we do get Tyrann Mathieu or if we sign back Terrell Edmunds, it might not be a bad idea to get a safety anyway, because I think after that, I think it's Miles Killebrew is the backup. And then after that, it's Trey Norwood. And then, Tushu McGee or something like that. And
Trey Norwood truly is more like Minka's backup.
Yeah.
So yeah, you would be right to say that like there isn't really someone behind if we would get those guys back, and I think these would be great guys to, especially getting someone like Mathieu. I think these three guys I named, besides Hamilton, I think Hamilton would be if we don't get Mathieu, but these two guys for sure. These last two guys I named, Jaquan and Daxton, they'd be great people to learn behind Tyrann Mathieu, and then really excel the following year.
Yeah, because it seems like they have already a ton of potential. They love the game, looking at their tapes and everything. And like Dom said, I do encourage all of you listening to watch the tapes of these guys. We're just trying to give our honest opinions and thoughts and tell you why we feel like they would be a good fit for the black and gold. But yeah, I mean, regardless of if we sign or anything, we need depth at every position. And it would be exciting for those guys to even learn under those top talents for the future of our organization.
Right. So now Chris has got a little bit of later names of safeties, and I've reviewed those, and there's one I really like, but I'll let Chris take the floor and take it away.
I feel like I know exactly which one you like, and it's going to be my last one.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, yeah. So looking at the later rounds, and I think this is definitely a big thing to look at, because safety is still like we literally just said, safety is such a big thing that we could get a big depth piece for. And if we do sign a guy, I don't expect us to go higher up in the draft with safety, but we could get these guys maybe in later rounds, such as 3 and beyond. Sure. First guy that I'm going to talk about is actually someone that has potential round 2, but into round 3 talent. And that's Jalen Petrie, safety out of Baylor. So watching Baylor's tape, first thing you notice is that literally everyone on their team is a bunch of speedsters. I think one of their top guys of their defensive backs, who I might bring up at a later time, Kalen Barnes, ran like a 4.23 or something. It was crazy. But we're not talking about him. We're talking about Mr. Petrie. The thing I like about Petrie is he's really quick. He's able to close off a lot of gaps super quickly, and his ability to jump in front of routes is just it almost seems effortless, to be honest. He's pretty good in the open field. He's able to kind of ball hawk and watch down. He had a number of picks from the highlights that I was watching, and it was really exciting to see. And especially at the conference that Baylor plays in, I know they see a lot of better talent at quarterback. So seeing him actually jump in front and being able to make some of these plays rather than, seeing some of these duck passes kind of come their way, it was nice to see that.
Yeah. I'm watching every time Chris kind of talks about players, I like to watch the highlights as he's talking about them. And man, I gotta agree. He looks these picks. He's getting a lot of picks, and they're very effortless.
Mm-hmm. He's really quick, which honestly the combine really did not show that compared to all the other guys. He ran a 4.46, which is pretty fast. But like I said before in an earlier podcast, this was an unbelievable 40-yard time combine. I think so many guys ran that upper 4.2s, low 4.3s, to where a 4.46, that's not bad speed by any means. But he's quick, and he has a lot of lateral quickness. He can get from one side of the field to the other, which is nice. Standing at a tall 5'11", so just under that 6 foot. He's 198 pounds, and he didn't really do a whole lot at the combine. I mean, he got a lot of good reactions there. From some of the positives that I read is that he has a lot of quick processing, and his eyesight is just really fast, meaning he can just kind of pick up on plays really quickly and decide right then and there if he's going to try to go for it or think better off to just kind of play a supportive role, which is definitely a good thing that you need. He's really good at being proactive with run support. And what I like about his run support is he's way more involved in wrapping up than just trying to smack the living crap out of someone, which is always nice. The downside that I read on him is that he's kind of listed as having some tight hips. So when he's breaking out of routes, maybe he can get locked up or, pushed off quite a bit by other receivers. And he lacks that pure speed at safety, which is kind of surprising being a 4.46 time, but receivers are fast, man. They're getting faster by the year, it seems like. So,
Hamilton's a 4.59, so.
Yeah, but I mean, are you going to throw over a 9 foot tall person?
Right.
Exactly. So he could be 10 yards behind the person, and he'd still probably catch it because he's that tall.
I wasn't really hyped on the safety class. I didn't really think there was a lot of talent there, but he's got really good tape too. I mean, I think I wouldn't mind him in a later round as well, like you had mentioned, maybe a third or even a fourth. Even I think would not be too bad.
It'd be pretty sweet. His stats for last year: he had 75 total tackles, 3.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, and 7 pass deflections. So he's definitely makes his presence known.
All right, who's next up on your list?
All right, so I got something cooking for you.
Okay. Cook away.
Did you like? So I'm cooking. I'm not cooking. Let me rephrase that. I'm actually going to be talking about my boy Brian Cook. out of Cincinnati.
Oh my God.
Yeah, my guy's right. Brian Cook, to me, was honestly one of my more favorite players to watch for tape. I talked to Dom about it, and he definitely looked at it as like I'm not really as high on this guy as you are, but I think I just maybe had wide eyes for this guy. He is a very, very hard-hitting safety, and he's not afraid to lay the boom. I think probably 60% of his highlight tape is just him smacking the heck out of literally any kind of runner or receiver. And he's just not afraid to get in there. He might present some struggles in the NFL as guys have, better times bouncing off of hits. But he definitely likes to make his presence known, and he plays with a lot of confidence and grit, which is really nice. He does need to be better about wrapping up, in my own personal opinion. Like I said, it seems like he just likes to lower that shoulder and try to rely on pure momentum to get guys down. But I don't know how well that's going to last, but he's actually a pretty good size safety. He stands at 6'1" and he's 206 pounds. So he's got some beef to him, sure, which is nice.
I think that's like a main problem with the Steelers defense is people don't wrap up. So that's kind of a cause for concern that he already doesn't do that. But it means he'll fit right in.
Right. So. I will say what I did like about him too is I felt like he was equally good in both the run and the coverage. I felt like seeing him on the pass plays, he's very aggressive. He gets his hands up. Sometimes it might get him into a little bit of a trouble because he's very handsy, and that could get some PI calls, but I think he's very good at just not giving up on a play, and he can get his hands up and kind of swat away at balls. And I really loved how fast he can just close a gap with his speed. It was very impressive to me. And it's kind of funny I say that because his 40 time at his pro day, he didn't participate in the combine, but his 40 time at his pro day was a 4.59, just like Kyle Hamilton.
Sure.
So,
but sometimes the sneaky speed,
Yeah, exactly. And I definitely think that's what he's got cooking for him.
Nice.
Thanks.
That will not be overplayed at all, for sure.
Well, definitely not. And his stats for last season, he had 96 total tackles, so he's definitely all over the place. He had 1 sack, 2 interceptions, and 9 pass deflections. So he also makes his presence known, and he was a part of Cincinnati's big success last season. So
very true. Not bad. Yeah. Not bad. Let's move on to the last one you got, buddy. My favorite name on the list.
I think we're good. We don't really have to talk about this guy.
Oh. All right, that's it then. Thank you for listening to the podcast.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Oh, yes, please. Let's talk about the legend.
The man, the myth. Maybe a little smoke. Hey, Dom, how would you describe your Mondays?
It's hard to see.
What? Hard to see? I mean, you got glasses on. Why is it hard to see?
Because of all the smoke, baby. And I want it.
Are you talking about Smoke Monday, the safety out of Auburn?
No, I'm talking about doing illegal drugs. Yeah, I'm talking about Smoke Monday.
So yeah, my last guy is Smoke Monday, safety out of Auburn. Smoke Monday is an absolute fiend. I watched his tape and I was impressed immediately. Literally the very first 3 clips that I saw were all pick sixes. And for returning, I think the first one was like 100+ yard return. Not only that, but another one of his pick sixes was against the national champions, Alabama that year, against Mac Jones. So, I mean, that's always a good sign when you can make super good plays off of big teams like that. Smoke Monday, I had, a lot of good things let me rephrase this. I thought he was good.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Smoke Monday was a very impressive player. I think he plays super great on the outside, and not only for coverage, but also when stopping the run. I feel like I'm a broken record when I say this, but the closing of gaps for some of these guys when running backs are going to the outside, it's just impressive. He's able to get through any kind of blocks and just kind of stick it to his man. So I really enjoyed it. Now, we're kind of following a theme, Dom, and I think that theme is guys that literally just like to hit people.
Yeah,
it's.
I think we're missing the fear from the Steelers. That's what we're missing.
Yeah, and I literally remember one tape in particular where I've never seen a dude get hit so hard that he gets lifted off of both feet and he literally twirls about 6 times in the air before falling. And you know who laid that? That was Smoke Monday. Smoke Monday laid that hit, and it was impressive. That was a grown man. That was a grown man. Probably had a kid or something, but like, man, he was definitely contemplating a lot of things after that hit. Smoke Monday comes in at 6'2", 196 pounds. So he's a taller guy. And he was clocked in at about a 4.52 40 time. From what I read about, his biggest concerns are definitely in the passing game, just kind of like open field stuff and being able to latch onto a guy in coverage, maybe getting burned a little bit with play action stuff. Sure. It tends to be a big control. I read that he plays a bit too gullible. Which isn't a great thing, but at the same time, I think he makes up for it with a lot of his play style. And last season, he had 63 total tackles, 2 sacks, an interception, and 5 pass deflections. They have him going at about that round 4 or 5, maybe into a 6 even. That might be a little mean, but I mean, for that kind of talent to drop that far, it might not be a bad pickup for the Steelers to get, depending on signings and things like that. So
now we don't have we don't have a 5th round pick, but a 4th rounder, I think would for the type of talent that he is, because I believe he can return too, right? So the type of talent he is good.
Yeah. I actually forgot to mention too. So the 3 pick sixes that he had is actually ranked number 4 all time in SEC football history, and he's tied with Eddie Jackson and Eric Berry. And what's also cool about that is we know someone who stands at number 1 on that list, Tom.
Oh, personally?
Yep, it's our father, Eldon Paskowski. He is Minka Fitzpatrick is actually the number 1 person to return 4 interceptions for touchdown in college. So he stands with good company, and I think that's really exciting.
He's very electric with the ball in his hands, and I think if you get him in the 4th round or even later, I would say it's a win for sure.
I would say it's a win too.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think that wraps it up. My biggest takeaway from that conversation for everybody here is there's a lot of greater safety depth or safety players out there that I didn't even realize. So if we're getting a safety, I think there's a lot of great players you can get. Now, again, I had mentioned in the last podcast that when we drafted Terrell Edmonds, there was other ones I liked better, and we didn't get them. So who knows? They might end up getting Lewis Sign, who I don't think is very good at all. But that's probably. But I think there's a lot of great options out there. So something to be excited for, something to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something to be very excited for. I think there's a lot of hope in this draft, more than we originally thought at the safety position, which is exciting. But yeah, it just, keep your heads up. I think good things will happen. And I think there's a lot of options out there for us, which is huge.
So next week, we'll be talking about another position that the Steelers are in need for. Maybe we go offense again. Maybe we stay on defense because, like we mentioned, the Steelers are looking for a lot of defenders because I think they want to bolster that up. But we have a lot of holes in general. But we want to thank you for listening to our podcast. You can follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, and you can go on YouTube too. We got little shorts, we got little funny videos here and there. I'm your host, Dominic. This is my host, Chris, otherwise known as Christopher, otherwise known as the man guy, Chris. Thanks, man.
That's me.
My improv skills are really working at a high speed tonight, I think. My brain capacity is very small, and my actual brain is even smaller. But we want to thank you for listening in to us ramble and jamble on. Chris, do you have any last thoughts?
Nah, I was just going to say again, thank you all. Don't forget to check out all the highlights that we talked about today. I really encourage you guys to check these tapes out for yourselves and kind of build your own opinions. But again, we thank you for listening and taking the time out of your day to listen to episode 5 of the Northern Steel podcast. Again, follow us on all socials. And we look forward to talking with you next week.
That has been the Northern Steel podcast. We wish you a groovy night.
Peace out. All right, peace.